I'm Jennifer Jolly.
And ahoy, I'm David Perry. Today is April 23rd, 2020. It's been 34 days since California's Governor Gavin Newsom issued a shelter-in-place order. We're glad to have you with us. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, David.
Each week, while we shelter at home and keep in touch virtually with our friends and neighbors, we'll bring you interviews with experts here in the Bay Area and beyond to help us make the choices, stay connected, healthy and happy, and make the most of the great pause.
Yeah, David, it is incredible to be anchoring this show with you from afar. General topics that we'll cover include health, business, the arts, employment, food, education, technology, finance, and so much more. We have an incredible show lined up for you today. We have experts from the San Francisco Chronicle, TaskRabbit, the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, Udacity, the Hotel Council of San Francisco, and the Women's Building. And then after each interview, we'll field a few questions from you, any one of you watching live online. So please feel free to use that little chat box right at the corner of your screen and ask any question you want.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I just have to say, having read you a lot in USA Today, you're my go-to expert for everything tech. So I'm very honored to be here live with you. So thanks a lot.
I feel the same way.
Before we begin our first interview, we want to share some of the latest social distancing protocols and news announcements around town. In case you didn't know, the reason you're seeing so many masks out on the street is because as of today, April 23rd, 2020, they are required when inside stores or businesses are waiting in line outside to go in. You must also wear a face mask when wearing public transit or waiting for a bus, and when going inside any facility that is currently under the stay-at-home order.
Yeah, David, that's right. And, everybody is a little confused about when to wear a mask, when not to wear a mask. So here's the scoop. You don't need to wear a face mask in your own home. We're in our own homes, no mask on. Or when you're in your own car, when you're outdoors walking at that safe distance, 6, 10, 20, 50 feet away from people, when you're biking and running, and stay far enough away from people, safe social distance, you don't have to wear a mask. But you should have a face mask at the ready. Kids ages 2 and under, you don't have to wear a face mask. They don't have to wear a face mask. Kids ages 3 to 12 are not required to wear a face covering, but if they do, they should be supervised by an adult.
Great information, Jennifer. And of course, at essential businesses that are open, all workers and volunteers must wear face coverings when others are nearby or when they're in spaces that the public regularly visits. So signs must also be posted by those businesses notifying customers that they must wear face masks to enter their place of business.
Hey, a lot of creative types are making their own masks. I am not that creative, so my mother made this for me. She put a little pocket in the back to slip a paper towel or something like that in the back. But, with the shortage of the N95 masks, and I have one that's crumpled, it's seen a lot of mileage. This is from when we had the wildfires in the area, and I have one left over from that. This is the N95 hospital grade mask. We really need to leave these for healthcare workers. I had already worn mine back in the days of the wildfires, so I'm hanging on to this one. It's a little worn. But as the New York Times and my editor there at the New York Times, Tara Parker Pope, reminded all of us that any face covering right now is better than no face covering. And that while some people are using air filters, vacuum bags, those can have fibers that are not okay to inhale. They're dangerous to inhale. So it's better if you don't have that N95 mask, which we should leave to the healthcare providers, that you practice safe social distancing and then make a fabric mask. One way to test what fabric to use is to hold it up and see how much light gets through it, and then make sure to test that fabric over your face to, of course, make sure you can still breathe. Now, tons of really creative people are using coffee filters. A paper towel added to the back of a mask can add that extra protection. And then to make masks a little more fun, David, listen to this. There is a contest. Everyone can enter. You design your own mask. And I say, heck, why not, right? So the rules. Number 1, masks must be safety compliant. Number 2, they must be fabulous. Because when you've designed your own mask, I mean, it just all bets are off. Just pull out all the stops. That's what I'm trying to say. So be sure that you take a photo or send the design to sfmaskcompetition@sfmask.com. gmail.com. Sister Roma, Peaches Christ, BB Sweetbriar, and Donna Sachet will be judging. I can't wait. Deadline for entry is April 27th. I can't wait to see what you come up with, David.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of those people, and of course, my dear friend Donna Sachet, the incoming president of the Rainbow Honor Walk, which I was with for 10 years. It's San Francisco. It takes a drag queen, right, to make it fun, fabulous, and safe.
Really, that should be on a bumper sticker. It's San Francisco. It takes a drag queen.
It takes a drag queen. It might be after this show. Well, in the realm of things that are fun and for a good cause, this Saturday, April 25th at 12 noon Pacific, Charlotte Schultz, the relentless chief of protocol here in San Francisco, and the one and only Tony Bennett are inviting the entire world to sing out SF. At 12 noon Pacific on this Saturday, we want everyone to come out on their front porches, in their backyard, or on their Facebook Live and sing Tony Bennett's classic, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. But this isn't just because it sounds nice. This is San Francisco's way of saying to all the frontline workers and medical professionals, people who bag our groceries, people who drive our public transit, and of course our brave doctors and nurses, we want to say thank you with San Francisco's official ballad. So go out Saturday at noon, sing I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Tony Bennett will be doing a little video kickoff, and please preserve those videos online with the hashtag SingOutSF, and then we will look at them later.
Nobody wants to hear me sing, but hey, it's for a good cause. I will attempt to carry a tune for a half second or so. All right, a few more notes from the neighborhood around here. Some of the latest developments mentioned in the local news this week include healthcare and essential workers experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. Anyone like that, if that's you, anyone you care about, they can now call 311 to find out where they can be tested for free. There's also a bright spot for San Francisco moms and everyone who loves one. The San Francisco Flower Market will reopen just in time for Mother's Day. That means florists around town will now be in stock for a bouquet of your mom's favorite flowers. I love that one, David.
Thank you. That's great news. Well, in news it's not quite so cheery. The unemployment numbers are still rising across the country, with as of today another 4.4 million people filing for unemployment last week. Now, Californians who were self-employed and working legally, they can also file for pandemic unemployment assistance. So this is an important website to take down. There's complete information online about this at edd.ca.gov. Again, edd.ca.gov.
Oh, thanks, David. And finally, drivers, hey, beware. If you see traffic cones and street closure signs in Oakland or San Francisco, any other cities around the Bay, slow down, pay attention, take a deep breath. We're in the great pause. San Francisco is the latest in the Bay Area to close off some streets close off the streets to vehicles, I should say, so that kids, pedestrians, and cyclists can use them safely. I was out at Ocean Beach experiencing this recently. It is incredible. So speeders, you might also want to take note. News that the police are handing out more speeding tickets to drivers traveling faster than 100 miles an hour was also reported just today. Who needs to drive 100? Come on. We're going through enough. Please be safe out there, everybody.
Yeah, the worst pandemic in 102 years is quite enough to deal with without reckless driving. So thanks for that, Jen. For our first interview, I'm really glad to have someone who I call a colleague and also a friend. He's been writing for the San Francisco Chronicle longer than I care to admit. He's been on my Rolodex. He is the person that tells us what is good design or what isn't good design. He reports on the cityscape. Well, for the last few weeks, he has been doing double duty as our COVID-19 reporter. So please welcome my colleague, John King of the San Francisco Chronicle.
In journalism these days, and I'm no exception.
John, I don't know if you recall, but when the late, great Herb Caen had his funeral at Grace Cathedral, I happened to be helping them with PR and communications. And after the service, I came out, and I'd always been a little afraid of you. You were considered kind of a stern journalist. And you were standing there, and I remember you looked out over San Francisco from the stairs atop Grace Cathedral, and you opened your hands and you said, looking at these over 2,000 people at Herb's funeral, all this for a journalist. Did you ever think that journalism would be as important as it is now? I mean, this is arguably, well, it isn't arguably, it's the biggest story since World War II and maybe before.
Yeah, it is striking. I mean, journalism is going through a real fascinating moment right now. It's a real hard one for a lot of people who are in the profession I'm in. But you have this thing where digital traffic is up astounding events, or I'm sorry, to an astounding extent. And you see this in just the Chronicle numbers for sfchronicle.com have really shot forward. Every news site has that because people really want to know, and no matter how politicized the debate over journalism has become, you definitely see right now this sense that where can I go just to get information, just to get facts? And where can I go to get local information that's not going through the whole battle in Washington, D.C. or something like that? And so you see this in San Francisco, you see this in every big city where newspapers are having daily traffic. The Chronicle's having its digital subscriptions go up a huge extent, which is great. We appreciate that. I get the paper delivered at home still, and I prefer that because it's a nice change to all the digital information we're getting right now. But it's tricky because meanwhile, the number of ads being bought is really going down because so many businesses are having problems. So it's a real interesting time. The SF Symphony, which always has ads in the Chronicle, you're not going to buy an ad if you're not doing any performances for the next 6 weeks. So it's an interesting time. People really are turning to journalism, and that's so appreciated. We all realize, a lot of what I do is architecture criticism. People right now aren't going to be worrying about how the mullions look on a new building. They want to know what happened at the City Hall press briefing the day before. So we're all being redeployed and providing people what they need at this point in the nation's history, in the city's history, in your own personal history.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. The other day I was speaking with Audrey Cooper, the executive editor of the Chronicle, and she made the comment that local newspapers were having a real hard time up until COVID-19. And as you said, advertising wise, they are. But now people are really looking to the local hometown papers wherever they are, San Francisco, Duluth, Austin, to really get the news, because the news and the figures for each city, each area are different and so important. We can't get the news about COVID-19 just by watching CNN or MSNBC or whatever network you watch.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you look at the Bay Area, and the Chronicle has lists of where you can get takeout food. We have things about local bike shops having strains, local car repair shops having strains, every strain under the sun. And, at some point people get tired of, what Trump said at the press briefing, what Democrats said about what Trump said at the press briefing. You kind of want to know how your life is playing out. You want about the streets being closed in the Bay, San Francisco and Oakland, like slowing down streets to through traffic. I'm doing a piece that'll be in tomorrow's paper. Berkeley's basically had that for 45 or 50 years, a variation of that with traffic diverters. And it's a particular aspect I can bring to the mix because I know the Bay Area, I know the landscape. That's what the Chronicle, bless it, has been paying me to write about for a long time. And you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that from CNN. And if you read about it in the New York Times or something, it's going to be a national article that's framed with little examples from 9 or 10 different cities.
Right.
So it gets, I think people, there's an old dictum, news is what makes people talk. Beyond that, it's news is what is relevant to your life. And I think right now, more than any time we can remember, that second dictum is what's driving people's attention, is how does this thing going on affects me? Exactly how does it work? What's at stake for me and for the people I know where we live? And that's what journalism does.
Right. You know, John, I've seen a few articles recently talking about the post-COVID world. What is it going to look like? What are cities going to look like? Are we going to be more sustainable? How are designs going to be impacted? How are public spaces going to be impacted? I mean, this has been your beat, as it were, for a long time. You know, putting your finger in the wind and using the crystal ball, how do you see the cityscape of San Francisco, specifically in the Bay Area, changing after we all come out?
It'd be interesting. I think the importance of the public realm of parks and plazas and streets and sidewalks is being made as vividly as it could possibly be made right now. I mean, I was talking with an architect earlier people are really appreciating the chance to be outside. At the same time, so I think there's a lot on that. I'm not writing about the public realm right now because I think I just want to chew on it a bit more for myself. I'm working on a piece on how designs might change. And, it really is too early to even put your finger up in the wind, except we're all trapped at home wondering that ourselves, unless, we're working in the grocery store or working in the hospital or something like that. But it is real interesting because, if the shelter in place orders are lifted on May 3rd or May 10th or May 17th, I'm not going to go want to sit in a movie theater with strangers on either side of me, in front of me, and in back of me. It's just, we've been for weeks, we've been told that isn't how we take care of ourselves. And that's not going to go away instantly. So it's hard to say. I think what you'll really see is a whole new set of arguments about the genuine importance of public space to the health of a city. That definitely you'll see.
Yeah. John, we've only got about 3-4 more minutes left in this interview, and there's 2 questions I want to ask you. The first one is, when you've been out doing reporting about COVID-19, what's the best and the worst behavior you've seen in some of our fellow citizens out there?
I had pretty much been the classic working from home reporter, so I haven't been out much at all. I mean, the day after shelter in place was put into place, I went out and went to several neighborhoods and looked around. And it was interesting. At that time, it was this weird novelty. So it was not a whole lot of people behaving badly, certainly. And what I have seen since then is what's filtered through the media. And, inevitably you there's this great urge to shame other people or other generations or whatever. But what I've seen, and this isn't as a journalist, this is as someone who lives in Berkeley and likes to walk around, who was liking to bicycle around until I rode over a nail. I feel like the social distancing is getting farther and farther apart, whereas in mid-March it was, gee, we don't want to get more than 6 feet close to somebody. Now it's like, oh, I see someone 2 houses away. Should I go into the street? And then they've already gone into the street. So the sidewalk's yours.
Right.
And so it's why some of the fight are not fights, but some of the calls for slow streets. In residential neighborhoods, there are so few cars out, and it seems like I have not seen. I mean, I've been on the Bay Bridge. I went in Sunday for supplies to the paper, and I took a great photograph from my dashboard, which I shouldn't do with my phone, and I was probably going 70 miles an hour with cars passing me on both sides. So no one should drive 100 miles an hour, but it is very easy to drive fast these days if you don't pay attention. But in terms of kind of walking around, I feel like in residential settings, drivers are appreciating there's a different etiquette right now. And I hope some of that sticks.
So,
and I
John,
hope
last
everyone
question.
starts dressing at home as sharply as you do.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this is the first tie I've had on in 2 months, so don't get too excited. Last question, John. Last question in a few seconds, 30 seconds. tell me what you are most looking forward to when we are finally allowed to go outside again. What does the quote unquote new normal look like for John King?
Professionally, what I'm most looking forward to is I like to write about buildings. I'm an architecture critic. And it's frustrating because you see something getting built and it just goes up and up and up. And even when it's all the way up, it's not finished on the inside. And it's funny, there are a number of buildings for the last 6 months I've been wanting to write about, but they're not done yet. So I can't really write about them critically because I need to go into them. I need to examine them. So I'm actually looking forward to getting back and actually being able to write critically about some of these big new buildings that are housing, that have affordable housing in them. And they weren't done in January and they weren't done in February, but they'll be done in May or June. And so I can go back and catch up with them.
Great. Thank you, John. The first round of drinks, when we're able to have it side by side at the House of Shields, that's on me. All right, back to you, John.
It's a deal. Thanks so much.
So much, David and John. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing out there. All right, and David, I just have to add, you are the sharpest dressed shelter in place work from home man that I have seen in so long. The same in my Hawaiian dress. But
yeah, my husband and my mother-in-law from Spain today approved. So I actually did a whole transatlantic approval for the suit. So
that's awesome. My mother and father up in Alaska are like, why didn't you get dressed up? Mom, Dad, this is a dress. It's just I was rocking the Hawaii vacation vibes because I've been stuck inside like the rest of us for so long. Okay, on to another incredible interview. You have probably heard of a company called TaskRabbit. I have used this service so many times for help running errands or making big garbage runs. And as my friend at the New York Times put it, it is a company known for, among other things, sending tool-wielding workers to rescue customers befuddled by build-it-yourself furniture kits. Yes, that is exactly right. But right now, TaskRabbit is doing something even more important. They are helping so many people in need with a program called Tasks for Good. TaskRabbit CEO Stacy Brown-Philpot is joining us now from her home in San Francisco. Stacy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is an incredible program that you've launched. Tell us about Tasks for Good.
Well, Tasks for Good is a volunteer program that we've launched that is essentially created to help at-risk and vulnerable populations get the essential services that they need today. And that includes anything from picking up your medications, doing your grocery shopping, or delivering things to frontline medical workers who can't leave the hospital to go and get them. We're so excited to launch this program.
It sounds incredible. Tell me exactly how it works. Like, say I'm at risk. I can't go pick up medication at a pharmacy. I log into TaskRabbit, and then what happens?
You log into TaskRabbit, and we have a bunch of volunteer taskers who will pick up that task for you. You just type in where you want us to go, what you want done, and we'll pick up that task for you. The tasker will do it at no cost to you. And it's because we understand that not everybody is equally treated right now. And a lot of people are struggling. And so we wanted this to be a complete volunteer program that allows for our taskers to just provide necessary services at no cost. So a good example is a Bay Area tasker named Tania. Someone posted a task for her to go and just pick up some medications for a mom who was immunocompromised. And so she delivered the task to her and said, thank you so much, because I don't know how these things would have gotten to my mom.
Okay, so if I understand this right, I can volunteer to be a tasker. I won't get paid for it, but I can say, go pick someone's groceries up. My elderly neighbor, I need to go pick their groceries up for them. That's how the TaskRabbit will put us in touch with each other. I can do something like that?
Absolutely. You can sign up to be a volunteer, or you can sign up to get something done. So if you wanted to volunteer, you could sign up and say, I'm volunteering my time for free. I'm willing to go get groceries. We've also partnered with the United Way, so people can call the 211 United Way helpline, and even request coming to the United Way will be done at no cost to the person who's requesting that service.
Stacy, are paid taskers still working? Can I still get somebody to come and work outside my house? Are there limits right now, like no going into people's homes? Do they need to wear masks, gloves? Talk to me a little bit about safety protocol.
Yeah, paid taxes are still working, but our number one priority has and always will continue to be the safety and health of our community. So while paid taxes are still working, we've given them a way to do that. We have communicated to them by first putting a banner up on our website that says, contactless tasks are the ways to go. This is the kinds of tasks that we suggest that you perform on our platform. We then put together a task force to help people understand how to do those tasks. And then we provided all of our taskers in North America with the necessary PPE, hand sanitizer, masks, and gloves, so that at no cost to them. So when they go out and task, they're safe and they're protected. Most people are still getting deliveries and errands, but some people, furniture assembly has become stable. It's kind of declined. It's become a stable business for us. And it's not furniture assembly like you think, but I bought a trampoline and I need, my kids need to get outside in the backyard. It needs to be put together. Or I bought a barbecue grill. Like, we're home now, and we want to grill. Things like that are the kinds of things that people are still hiring taxis to do in a safe way.
Yeah, some of my friends just bought a trampoline and they said, we don't have a single space to put it in the backyard right now, but it is a game changer for their 3 young children. So that's fantastic. And then also, with so many people being out of work right now, it is a way to make a little extra money on the side, right?
It's always has been a way to make extra money on the side. TaxRabbit was founded in 2008, which was during a recession. So we are the kind of company that you come to when you really are in need of making an income. And so we're happy to be here so that for people who do need to make money right now, maybe they lost their job because of some other reason or because of this pandemic, and this is an option for them to earn some extra income in a safe way.
I can't imagine what it must have been like for you as a CEO of a massive company, looking into the beginnings of this shelter in place and facing a pandemic. What was that like for you as a leader in this community?
It started off a little worrisome. We were trying to figure out what to do. And we went back to our first principle, which is the safety and health of the community. We know that TaxRabbit is an essential service that people need, but let's figure out how to do that in a safe and healthy way. And this was ahead of all the guidance around masks and gloves and hand sanitizer. So we just developed those policies on our own. And we sat down with our team and with the task force, meeting almost daily at one point, to talk about what's the critical need that we have to meet right now so that our taxers can continue to earn income because they need this income, and so that our community can be safe. And then through that came the volunteer program, because so many people reached out and said, we want to help. There's so much humanity out here and goodness in the Bay Area. People just want to help. So we just opened up the program so people could just volunteer their time for free. And as a CEO, I'm just proud to have the opportunity to give people a chance to help their neighbor and to help their community.
Yeah, isn't that incredible that sometimes it takes a crisis for us to realize how incredible our community is and how much we're all there for each other? What do you think will be the biggest lesson that you take away from this? Do you think that, and I really personally and professionally, do you think there will ever be a going back to normal, or do you think there'll be a kind of a new normal?
I fully expect there will be a new normal. Deliveries is our number one category in the Bay Area right now, which was not true 2 months ago. So there's a need now for our business in a way that we didn't see before. I also think that working from home has changed the way that we work. Our team is 100% working from home, all motivated and excited to live our mission of making everyday life easier for everyday people. And we know that going back to work are going to introduce new ways of interacting with each other. But we're ready to embrace them. Personally, I am so grateful for all the teachers out there. I have to give a major shout out. I have young children We are homeschooling, and I have never had a deeper appreciation for every single teacher in the world as I have right now. And so I expect that even as they return to the building that they go to for school, that we will all become to really love and appreciate all of the teachers who teach our children every single day.
Stacy Brown-Philpot, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. TaskRabbit, Task for Good. You can read more about her mission, and absolute shout out to the teachers. You've probably seen some of those memes and the funny sayings come across social media about, how we never realized until we became the teachers from home just how much they were doing, and boy, do we ever owe something to those teachers. And so, David, if you could have somebody go out and do a task for good for you right this second, what would it be?
A task for good, I would have someone go out right now and go to all the homes maybe that have extra food in their larder, things that they could donate to charity and take them down to the food bank. Yeah, that's what I would do now. I hadn't thought about that till just now. I mean, before we were like, well, who's going to hang up a painting because David's a klutz? Now it's really the tasks we're thinking about are things that can help people. And, I just have to echo what you said and what Stacy said, thanking our teachers. And now, of course, a lot of stay-at-home moms and dads are teachers too. And I think that includes you as well, doesn't it?
Well, my daughter is 19. She's a freshman in college at UC Davis. So she is home from now, or home for now, but I love it. I wasn't ready to be an empty nester. So she's upstairs taking college classes right now. So it's been really great for me to get her back home again for a while. But I have so many friends with so many kids at home, and they're dealing with everything from only one child can be logged into a Zoom class at a time, and the others are going nuts. And, just everybody out there, everybody watching this, be patient with yourself. There is no perfect answer right now. We are all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And I think, like Stacy said, just grab a trampoline if you can. Go outside, get some fresh air, because we are all in this together, and we're going to make it through this. And I know you have another incredible interview as well, David.
I do. And, in the realm of keeping on, our next guest is someone I've known for over 20 years as a friend, as a client, when he owned the Wax Museum at Fisherman's Wharf. He used to be head of the Planning Commission. He was on the Port Board of Directors. And now he is not even a year yet, I think, CEO and president of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, my friend and colleague, Rodney Fong. Rodney, how are you? Rodney, the other day, I heard you in a wonderful interview with Manny Yucatiel, who manages Manny's. And it's interesting how these online interviews become news. I mean, Mayor Breed was interviewed the other day. And, before, a journalist wouldn't think, well, I'm going to watch a Zoom interview to put an article in the paper. But she made news by being online. And so did you. And one of the things that I heard quoted about you in that interview was that you felt that you had been preparing for this moment professionally all your life. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, I know you're a fourth generation San Franciscan. Tell me about how your past has led you to this moment.
Right. Well, that sounds like an audacious statement. I was a little bit embarrassed by that. But, I think born and raised here in the city and just having pure love for this city of San Francisco and knowing it is the only city as my hometown, and for my parents, my grandparents, and even my great-grandmother who was here in 1898. I'm concerned about the city and have always been, in the different volunteer roles and some paid roles, but mostly volunteer roles, have put me in a position at this particular moment leading the Chamber of Commerce, having some knowledge of land use, having some knowledge of the Port of San Francisco, having some business knowledge, having some small business background growing up and running a wax museum for 50 years, and having some understanding of the very complex city we call San Francisco. San Francisco is a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and it has an extreme wealth and it has an extreme poverty, and we have to think about all of that. I was listening to the previous conversations, and we are in a new world, and it's a complete reset button for all of us. Here in San Francisco, it's a reset button. It's an opportunity for us to think about the next economy for San Francisco being a progressive one, where we take all walks of San Francisco into consideration, from labor to workforce to big headquartered businesses that exist here in the city, and of course, small business, which is the backbone of San Francisco.
Well, Rodney, I'm honored to be on the board of the chamber and on the executive committee representing the small business community. So I know small business is the backbone of the city, and you have been relentless in talking about small business and how it's the backbone of San Francisco. I think I asked you this question once just casually, but now I ask it on air. We want to know how the chamber can help its members and businesses in San Francisco. What can businesses do to help what you're trying to do as the chamber get us beyond the great pause and getting us into the great recovery?
Yeah, well, I think it's important that we all remember and recognize that people who are in business themselves are great problem solvers. They are generally jack of all trades because they have to do accounting, they have to do marketing, they have to do sales. And so that kind of ingenuity that happens through entrepreneurship is exactly what we need right now. We need people to be passionate, to be able to push their ideas forward, to not give up and be relentless about sharing their passions, to be employers, to hire people, to be providers and spend money with vendors to keep their businesses going. So the question is what they can do. I think that one of our aspects is going to be to try to help smooth the pathway as best possible for people to enter into business, for them to maintain their businesses. Right now, our focus is really retention of the existing businesses in San Francisco, making sure that they're healthy and come out the other side of this with enough strength and energy and capital to hopefully ride this out, but then come out strong. So, following us, hopefully you can learn a few things from some of the resources that our public policy team is working on. Hopefully some businesses actually share their ideas. We want to hear every single idea and suggestion right now. There is no bad idea. There's no idea that's too small or too large at this moment. So share the ideas, share the opinions. We'll get them out there. And, the ingenuity of San Francisco, the can-do attitude, the creativity, I'm certain we can do this.
Yeah, I always have loved San Francisco's motto, the city that knows how. And I remember in February being at the City Beat breakfast, kind of the kickoff to the Chamber's 170th year. There was that wonderful video that I still watch and be moved by called Wake Up San Francisco. That phrase now takes a whole new meaning in the last month. I mean, do you
Yeah.
remember the moment? Yeah, do you remember the moment when you realized COVID-19 was going to be life-changing for the city and for the world?
Yeah, I think when we officially closed our offices and asked everyone to work from home, that I think for all of us on March 15th was the day that we all sort of were like, this is going to be different and this will be different. I do think your reference to our video, Wake Up San Francisco, was intended to be a celebration of business in San Francisco. And we'll maybe try to get the link to the video here on YouTube if you search it. But it was a double entendre. It was, this is how San Francisco goes about business on a daily life in the morning. Wake up. From collecting garbage to bakers getting out at Boudin Bakery and beginning to make sourdough bread, to the fish markets down at Fisherman's Wharf beginning to start their work, street sweeping, our great SFPD working in the morning as well. And the double side was, hey guys, if we don't at that particular time wake up with the city street conditions that they are, of which, let's be very real, we've lost a lot of business because of the conditions of our streets, whether it's tourism or otherwise, or companies being headquartered in San Francisco. It was a wake-up call, and COVID-19 is even a greater wake-up call. I think, David, this hopefully begins to show everybody here throughout the nation that businesses are fragile, and they may have a veneer of being incredibly wealthy and well capitalized. Some are, most aren't. I think all of us find ourselves that we are much more fragile than we wanted anyone to let on to be, and so we can't necessarily pile everything onto business. You have to let business thrive. We've issued a lot of taxes and voted on a lot of taxes that hamper business. You look at the restaurant industry and how competitive that is in San Francisco. Some of the best food in the world, but there's a lot of it. And every one of those restaurants, friends that we both know, have very thin margins on operating their businesses. And so we've got to figure out a way where people are still interested in being entrepreneurs, can make a living doing it, and hopefully employ some other people who can make a living doing it. But if we cut it too thin, as we see here, even with, we've only been this in 4.5 weeks, how fragile the business environment is. And I just want to keep pushing that forward, because while the hotel may have a fancy chandelier and marble staircases, they have payments too, and they have mortgages, and they have debt service, and they have employees and insurance to take care of as well.
Right. It only seems like 4.5 years. It's only been 4.5 weeks.
Did I say years? Sorry.
Yeah.
Weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking down because I just got texted a question from a viewer, and they ask, are there any steps that small business owners that can't pay rent or keep their employees, what can they do now to make sure that they can open after the great pause into what I'm going to start calling the great recovery?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think this is a difficult problem because the tenants, the businesses themselves are finding themselves obviously in a pinch. The landlords don't necessarily have any relief above them, so they're not necessarily in a position to forgive rent. Above that, the insurance companies, I think, are at large also looking at how they can help out, but they're ultimately going to need federal assistance as well. So this whole problem trickles up. It's not just for the tenants, it's for the landlords as well, it's for property owners, nonprofits, not just for-profit businesses. So this is a very challenging time, and a watershed time for our nation to look at how it's going to continue to survive.
Now, I know that you are one of the members of Mayor Breed's Recovery Council or committee, whatever it's called. Talk to me about that. Who comprises that, and what have you been charged with? And then on a personal note, tell me what it's like working with Mayor Breed, the gym buddy for my husband Alfredo and I, who probably we won't see next to each other on a Stairmaster for at least a few weeks.
Right. So I was absolutely honored. The mayor asked me if I would help co-chair the San Francisco Economic Recovery Task Force. I'm going to be joined by Carmen Chu, the city assessor, Jose Cisneros, the city tax collector, and Rudy Gonzalez, who represents labor. The four of us have been working together and put together with the mayor's leadership a task force of 80 people. 80 seems like a large number, but this is a big town, and there are many different sectors, and we just can't get everybody here. But hopefully the 80 people represent their sector, represent their other businesses within their industry. And so hopefully we're going to get roundtable interview discussions with each of those sectors, with each of those business leaders, sector leaders. It's everything from healthcare to nonprofits to hospitality to the real estate to the development community to the housing community, and of course labor. So hearing from all of them, we'll have a pages and pages of recommendations. We want to try to score them. We want to try to put some sort of matrix, so when we present it to the mayor's office, that she can look at it and pick and choose. Personally, I probably feel this is not necessarily a plan that we can stick to. This is a very moving, dynamic challenge that we're in now, and we don't know how long it's going to go on. We don't know how long the recovery will take. So in my mind, it's probably more like a playbook where you have 100 plays. Maybe the first few are scripted, but then after that, depending on what curveballs were thrown, sorry for all the sports analogies, but whatever challenges were thrown, we'll have to go back to that playbook and pull out what's appropriate, what has the best efficiencies, what costs the least, quite honestly, what creates the most amount of jobs, what the long-term impact of something might be by making that investment now. So I'm looking forward to it. It is going to be a challenge. Organizing 80 people is a challenge in itself. But getting the city back to as close as what we think is normal, the new normal, getting people employed is number one. Creating jobs is number one. And getting the city back on its feet. And if any city has an opportunity to do it, San Francisco has a good opportunity to do that.
Great, thanks, Rodney. I've always known you not only to be practical but optimistic. So your optimistic leadership is much appreciated now. Any closing thoughts before we head on to our next guest?
No, just really quickly, if people can think about this a little bit, the real success in my mind about getting business back and getting the working force back, it really is tied to the school system. If we can get our school system back up and running, where teachers and parents are comfortable sending their kids to school, and there's a great program and new compliance for schools, that then frees up the employer, the parents, to get back into the workforce. But until the school system is 100% or has a good plan, I don't think we get back. So from the business community, I'm reaching out to the education system to help them and do whatever we can to help them get on their feet and establish a great, safe plan for all the kids and families.
Thanks so much, Rodney. Rodney Fong, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, and more importantly, a true San Franciscan. Jen, back to you.
Thanks, David.
David and Rodney, while you're still here, so many of my mom friends are wondering what school will be like once it gets started back up. Will the kids have smaller classrooms? Will there be no more recess, or maybe recess 10 at a time? I know there's just so much that everyone is looking at and thinking about going forward. Are you guys still around to weigh in on that, or did I lose you?
I'm here, and that's a great question. And I'm not an expert in the educational system, but would love to, have a conversation more to the point about getting kids safely back to school. I know it's a question amongst all our friends who are parents. I'm a parent. The kids are a little bit older, but they are in college now and facing the same things. It's a very difficult time for anybody, all of us, but for college kids, and it sounds like you have one as well. For them to not know what's their future really holds. And it already was a difficult time for them, not knowing what their future holds and what major to select or what the job market looks like. But for them to not even know if they're going back into a campus lifestyle, which is a fun lifestyle and a great time of their lives, I feel bad that that's been taken away from them.
Being stuck at home with mom and dad isn't fun? What?
It's not, trust me.
Thank you again. And I know that this is a topic we'll likely address next week, same time, same show. In the meantime, thanks so much again.
All right.
And we
Thank
will
you.
go right. Yeah, incredible. It's so incredible to have access to the community leaders, to all of you here in the San Francisco Bay Area, because it's conversations like this that can truly bring us together. And together we can move forward. We can start to heal. We can start to figure out some of these big problems together. With that in mind, our next guest is from Udacity. Now, Udacity is an online learning platform that is, typically offers online learning classes to technology workers, all kinds of people. But right now, they again have launched something special to help people, training workers, as a result of this pandemic. So joining us now, Gabe Dalporto, CEO of Udacity. Gabe, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with, I think that this is called Udacity's Pledge to America's Workers. Tell me a little bit about what this is and who this is for.
Sure. Let me kind of set the macro stage here. Over the next 10 years, before COVID even, the World Economic Forum predicted something like 1 billion people are going to lose their jobs over the next 10 years due to AI, machine learning, technology, automation. And having grown up in Appalachia, I've seen what happens when industries automate and we don't reskill our workers, right? So huge disruption. People at best have menial, low-wage jobs. So there's a societal change happening here where our mission is to upskill people in the careers of the future so they can go make more money, have better lives. COVID has accelerated that. So there was a projection of 40 million job losses in the U.S. over the next 10 years. We've seen 26 million in the last 4 weeks. And the elephant in the room here is many of those jobs are not coming back, right? Many of these are in retail jobs. There's going to be a tsunami of retail bankruptcies. And so we have a moral obligation here to help retrain these workers on high demand, high paying skills so they can get off the unemployment lines, get back to work and have better quality of life. So we've done a couple of things. One is we launched our Pledge to American Workers, and that's where we've pledged over the next 5 years to give 100,000 scholarships. This year we'll give 20,000 scholarships. We've already received 2,000 applicants. We're in the process of processing them and getting them into classes. And we have also launched through the end of this month 30 free days of Udacity. So anybody can come in, access our platform for free for 30 days. Any course, anything from basic intro to programming to machine learning to self-driving cars or cloud computing. And these are all kind of in-demand, high-paying jobs. And so far through this month, we've had 35,000 people take advantage of the free month.
So 35,000 people go to udacity.com and they log in, they sign up for a course, and it's completely free. Whether you start that today, you start that at the very end of the month, it's free for 30 days. Is that right?
Right. When you sign up, you'll have 30 days from the day you sign up to complete the course, complete the nano degree, or learn as much as you possibly can over the next 30 days. We figured there's a lot of people out of work right now temporarily, a lot of people stuck at home, working from home. They could use their, commute time that they have back, or if they're out of work, they can, get the skills they need to get back into the workforce.
Right. You hear about so many people, learning how to play the guitar or learning how to cook something, bake something. So why not really tackle AI or programming? Are most of the skills and technological courses around technology? What are the range of the classes that Udacity offers?
We really think about ourselves as training people on the careers of the future. So that's data science, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, basic programming, anything from, front-end web development, full stack, C++, all the way to like data structures, to cloud computing, to things like product management is one of our most popular nano degrees right now. Digital marketing, UI, UX design. These are all super, high skill, high paying, high demand areas for our students. It's interesting if you look at the mix of students in San Francisco versus the rest of the United States. We're actually kind of a pretty techie area. And so people get into things like data structures as, one of our most popular nano degrees, whereas in the rest of the country, intro to programming is our most popular. So it's a pretty technically sophisticated crowd here.
You just used the term nano degree. What's the concept of that, and how does that really help people?
Great question. So we think of a nano degree as an employable job skill. And so if you want to be a machine learning engineer, we create a package series of courses so that when you graduate, you have deep hands-on practice crunching through massive data sets, applying machine learning algorithms, and delivering industry relevant outcomes. So you can actually put that on your resume and get a job, right? So think of a nano degree as 3 to 6 months, 10 hours a week on your own time. You come out of this and you have like down and dirty employable job skills.
Do these classes from Udacity transfer into, say, a master's degree at a university or other college?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really our objective. Our objective is to take someone, and they can be literally, we've had truck drivers who have taken our nano degrees and now are software developers. But take someone either from that basic entry level, or maybe they have a college degree or even an engineering degree and they want to learn something advanced like AI, is to take them from level A to level B, or level B to level C, and really ladder up to a resume. We do work with a couple of universities. We helped Georgia Tech create their online computer science master's degree, and I think it's the largest online master's degree in the United States. Today in computer science, we work with Western Governors University, where you can get career credit, college credit for taking our nano degrees, RMIT in Australia. So we do work with a handful of universities to get course credit, but by and large, these are really focused on employable job skills.
How many classes could I squeeze into that 30-day free time slot there?
It depends how many hours you want to put forth. You could probably complete any one of our nano degrees, or at least most of them, if you worked full time and worked hard in a 30-day period. Students typically have jobs or other commitments, and so they'll spread it out over multiple months. But given everybody is at home, laid off, I think people can, and we've seen this. A lot of people are just cranking through these things and developing job skills.
Yeah, that's incredible, Gabe. Thank you so much. And just last but not least, why has this been so important to you to give back to our community in this way?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned, I grew up in West Virginia, and the fact that I've seen the economic disruption that happens when industries change and people don't reskill themselves. It's very personal to me. I go back and I see towns boarded up and country clubs shut down and people working at Walmart. Nothing against Walmart, but it's it's minimum wage, and there's better. And the population density of geniuses in West Virginia is the same as it is in Silicon Valley, and so. My objective here is to help as many people get those skills of the future as possible. One thing I would like to say is there's an important role for government. I think the elephant in the room is that we're spending literally trillions of dollars, over $2 trillion now, and probably it's going to not end until it's past $3 trillion on bailing out corporations and giving people, a little bit of money in their paycheck. That's going to do nothing for the 26 million people out of work. What we need to do is really provide education credits, and my proposal would be a $1,500 credit to anybody who takes a career upskilling course, and let people get back to work.
Well, that is such an incredible talk piece, and hopefully this conversation continues long after this episode ends, this show ends. But thank you, Gabe, so much from Udacity. We will have all the contact information of how you can take advantage of all of these incredible things going on in our community at the end of the show and online. In the meantime, I know, David, I cannot believe that almost an hour has gone by and we have more to get to.
We do. So I'm going to have to talk faster even than I usually do. Thanks, Jen. San Francisco has been voted year in, year after year, one of the top destination cities in the world for travelers. And it's well known to be a city of great hotels, great hospitality. So, of course, an industry that's taken a big hit in a very short time is the hotel industry. So we're going to bring in now Kevin Carroll, the president and CEO of the Hotel Council of San Francisco, to talk about how it's been impacted and what's next. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So, Kevin, let's start with the numbers. How many hotels are there in San Francisco, and how many employees does that mean? And by the employees, I don't mean just the people who work in hotels, but all the restaurants and other industries that are supported by our tourism community.
So there's 215 hotels in San Francisco, but they employ, just in the hotels themselves, 25,000 people work in the hotels. But the industry supports jobs way outside the hotel because of people that benefit small businesses and other businesses around it. So when you multiply that out, over 100,000 jobs are influenced and helped from the hotel industry in San Francisco.
What was the day that you realized this was going to be unlike any other crisis the hotel industry had faced in San Francisco? Bigger than 9/11, bigger than the earthquake, bigger than the Great Recession?
I think when we sat down, our industry sat down with the mayor and our Department of Public Health to look at how our industry could help with contracting with the city for hotel rooms for first responders and vulnerable populations. I think that's when it hit me, because the hotels had seen a complete slowdown, almost to a complete halt, of people coming to the city and staying in hotels. And then after that, it was, now what do we do to actually prepare? And especially because so many of our employees, because we went from, literally, if you were a car going 60 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour within a matter of weeks. And that was something that impacted most of our employees as well.
Right. Now, there's a little bit of misinformation out there. And of course, in a time when the news stories come faster than an old-fashioned ticker tape, it's kind of understandable. But having worked with hotels for many years in San Francisco and worked with the Hotel Council, I know the industry to be one of the most philanthropic and generous anywhere. The hotel industry in San Francisco has been giving back to the community for a long time. Talk a little bit now about during COVID-19. What is the hotel industry, and specifically in San Francisco, doing to house first responders and some of our most vulnerable populations?
Yeah, so the hotels are contracting with the city and what happens is the entire hotel would be used. So whether it's first responders, so those hotels that are actually the entire hotel is being used for first responders, or for vulnerable populations, or in some cases the homeless, hotels are doing that as well. We also have a nonprofit collaborative that works out of the hotels that donates products. So as things were happening, we were helping really make sure that excess food that was already purchased for events was being able to be distributed out within the community as well.
What's the message that you would like to get out to the world about the hotel industry in San Francisco? I mean, as I joked with Alfredo a few weeks ago, March was like the day you get sideswiped by a truck and knocked to the curb, and April is the month we realized, well, okay, I'm a little battered, but I'm not done. And tell me if I'm wrong. May seems to be the month where it won't be full hotel lobbies and full hotel rooms, but the month where we begin to say we're going to pick ourselves up. How does the hotel industry in San Francisco begin to pick itself up? What message would you like to send to the people who want to come back and visit San Francisco?
Well, our employees, as you know, are incredible. I think what's always amazed me about the hotel industry is how resilient we are. And we will recover. It's going to take a while. And I think my message to the world would be, San Francisco is an incredible city. When it's open and you're able to come back and travel here, our hotels and our employees will be here to welcome you. And we really look forward to that day. I mean, for us, it's something that we're used to. Hotels want to welcome people to our city, and we'll be there for you as soon as we can.
So, Kevin, talk to me a little bit about the Purple Lights campaign. I think a lot of people have seen over the last few weeks City Hall lit in purple, the color of hospitality, but also Coit Tower and hotels. What is that campaign about?
I think it's a symbol, a thank you to the hospitality workers, as I mentioned, across the city. And it's also a visual reminder of the strength and courage of the teams that work within our industry and within the city. I think many of our hotels have hearts put up onto their actual buildings in a way that they take the windows and all the lights, they form them into a heart. And some of them are combining that with the color purple as well. And I think that's a symbol of hope, a light that people can see and remind them that we're here and we'll be here. It's been an incredible thing that's being replicated around the world, I think, especially on the hearts. And the use of purple as a color, I think, is increasing as well. I just, it makes me feel good to see that. And it's a visual reminder to people that we're here and we'll be here.
Yeah, the other day on another interview, I heard someone ask you, "What is your favorite hotel?" And I remember the answer you gave, but I'm going to let you give it. And after you give that, I'd like, in closing, you to answer two questions. What was the best day during this COVID-19 crisis? Something that you saw that really made you think, "Yes, we're going to get through this."
When people ask me what my favorite hotel is, I just say it's like asking someone what their favorite child is or who their favorite child is. I work with all the hotels, and we have hotels of all different levels, sizes, shapes, for everybody. And I definitely can't pick a favorite. I usually start asking what type of hotels do you like and try to narrow it down that way. I think for me, the fact that this industry was able to do what they did so quickly when business was literally cut off, to me, it just shows how people are able to, even during tough times, rally around to make sure they do what they can, everything for their employees, for their community. And I think that's when I realized, hotels, like I mentioned, they're incredibly resilient. But now it's the time for us to start planning for the recovery, and we will. The city has a recovery task force that the Hotel Council is on, and we'll be working closely to make sure that when we get through this recovery, it benefits as many people as it possibly can.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. You are the soul of optimism and pragmatism, and we appreciate it. Thanks to Kevin Carroll from the Hotel
Great.
Council.
Thank you.
Jen, back to you.
So much. We're going to move straight on to Tania Estrada. She is the Community Programs Director for the Women's Building. Hi, Tania. Can you hear me?
Well,
All right. Hi. Yes, I have you as well. So much of what we've been talking about has centered around business, getting people back to work, but we have an incredible need in our community, as most do, to support women, especially in a time like this. I know domestic violence numbers are up. We have a lot of people, women, children in this area who need your services so desperately right now. Tell me about the Women's Building and tell me what you're doing during this pandemic time.
yeah, thank you. So the Women's Building has always been committed to be there for the community since it existed, you know. So I think it's really hard right now for the community to get connected to our services and to the world in general, because they don't have a place where they feel that connection, where they can get that assistance and where they feel safe. So it's been really challenging for many of our community members to to be served in different areas that they need help. And this is communities, of color, undocumented immigrants, minors, victims of domestic violence or trafficking that we work every day with, that during this pandemic, it's been very challenging to continue our daily work with them.
What are you able to do? I know that the building itself is closed down. What are you able to do with the community right now?
So we usually have 14 programs, social services programs available for the community, but right now we are only able to go with 9 of them. And we either have them on site, because we do have a food pantry where we serve the community, pantry that they can take home every week. But those numbers have been increasing a lot since the pandemic started. So we are seeing now more clients and non-clients coming into the building that we want to serve. So we are not saying no to anyone until we run out of food. We are able to serve everyone. And we are considering other options, including a second day of the pantry, because of the numbers that we've seen and the need in the community. We have some programs on site. Sorry?
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I was just going to say, I live across from the food bank, and a month ago, there were 20 people over there every Wednesday and Friday. 2 weeks ago, there were 40. Yesterday, there were 300. And noticing the different people who are starting to come, I mean, it really drives that need, not just in my backyard, but in my front yard and in all of our communities. There is just such a need. How are you with food supplies? Is that some place that you need folks? Can we bring food? What can we do to help?
So we receive different types of funding, and we are able to provide different services for the community. This one is through the food bank. And I think those numbers are the ones that we are actually seeing ourselves increasing every Monday morning when we run the food pantry. So it's really, it's very important for us to continue supporting organizations in different areas, because I think one is food that we serve the community with, but there's so many other different resources that we provide the community with that are essential for them. We run the family reunification program, so we're able to do fingerprints for those minors crossing the border and provide them with the documentation so they can be released and saving the community with their families. And no police department is doing fingerprinting right now in San Francisco or Bay Area except the Women's Building. So, there's some services that we still need to offer the community on site. So we are going to the building on different days at different times to provide those essential services, and some others that we can run from home, telephone, video calls. We do it, such as the resource clinic. So we are calling all the clients that we work with in the past year to see how they are doing and what is the help they need the most in or assistance. We've been, attending, serving calls to help fill out unemployment applications or the census. They don't have access sometimes to computer or they need a referral for somewhere. We've been very aware of the domestic violence situations. So calls haven't been increased at much or as we thought they were going to be, because the reality is that it's very difficult to, when living a domestic violence situation, to do a call from home. So the fact that we are calling, I think, alleviates some of that burden, because even though women cannot call, sometimes they are able to know that we are there for them whenever they want to call back. And even when we call, we time ourselves. We have sometimes less than a minute to talk to these women, making very specific questions, yes or no, with yes or no answers to expect from them, so that we know if they are in a safe environment, or, to provide some of other resources that they can get in these moments.
I just read a news report that said Uber is offering free rides to women and children fleeing domestic violence situations. Do you know about this? And do you know, is your center working with that program in any way?
No, right now I didn't know about that. I think it's really good to know. We also has and host other in-house organizations within our building that work with domestic violence, such as San Francisco Women Against Rape or Cooperative Restraining Order Clinic. So there's a different organizations within the building that are currently operating for them. So.
And Tania, I had to put my glasses on. A reader or a viewer question just came in. Does the women's building need volunteers? How are you training new volunteer staff? Does the women's building need, yeah, it was the same one. Sorry. It's the same one posted there twice, but do you need volunteers? How are you training the staff? And I think what I'm hearing, just all my different gadgets going off around me, is how can we help support you, support our community?
So yes, we do need volunteers. We're currently recruiting for the food pantry on Monday mornings, but we have very specific guidelines for that, because the majority of the people that volunteer for us in that program is were seniors. So we had to stop from we have to just like limit their access to the volunteering opportunity that they were running. So they are coming as clients but not as volunteers. So the food pantry is one of the programs where we are actively recruiting volunteers. There's a link in our site where it directs you to the volunteer coordinator, and she will be doing some virtual training but also on-site training prior to the pantry, so that we know the updates or new guidelines, or just to how to run the pantry with the proper social distancing and all the healthy measures that are there. In terms of how can we help, I think that the best way to help, I think, is donations. We have also received masks from other members in the community. Right now, we're partnered with different organizations to do more advocacy efforts for different communities in many areas, and also to get the basic things that sometimes is very hard for ourselves to get. Immigrant communities, victims of some sort of trafficking, people that are losing their jobs and even homes, they can afford to pay, I don't know how much for a hand sanitizer or for a mask. So I think that the donations that we are receiving from different community members, either, in items within this area or money-wise, everything helps the community to get that from our building.
Okay, and anything else you want to make sure people watching this or listening to this know before we say goodbye?
Yeah, so I think that you can learn more if you go into our website. There's a lot of information there on how to donate if you find yourself like, in a good opportunity to do that right now. And I think that's very important for us to think. There's some of us that are fortunate to have a home and a job that is very active right now. But there's many people that is needed our help in this pandemic most than any other time in the year, I guess, to help them with. So I think that if anyone else like is willing to put that like into some of these efforts, just like log into our website, donate, or contact us for more information, and we'll move forward with that. Thank you.
Tania, thank you so much. Tania Estrada, Community Programs Director for the Women's Building. I think, David, that it might have been the great Oprah Winfrey who said one of the best things to do when you're feeling really bad is to help somebody else. I'm not
Absolutely. I mean, I have always thought that one of the great phrases on earth, I think it's a biblical phrase, is, to those whom much is given, much is expected. And right now, anyone who's able to watch us on their computer or TV, we probably have access to a lot of people who aren't watching this need. And so, my grandmother was a great believer in the phrase, worries like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you no place. So don't worry. Get out there and help someone right now, because there are people out there that need it more than ever.
And it makes you feel better, right? So even if you're
Absolutely.
feeling really bad right now, helping somebody else could really, really help. Is that our show? We have eaten up this time. David, are we wrapping?
I know what a difference an hour makes. That's our
Yeah.
show for today, April 23rd. Please tune in next week, same YouTube channel, when we'll have guests including San Francisco Travel, Just Ask, TaxAid, Project Open Hand, and more.
That's right. And I'm going to say it's Just Answer. So you ask all the questions that you want, because folks from Just Answer, including experts in legal, health, veterinary services, will be here to answer your questions next week. If you have questions or topics, people you would like to see on the show, topics you would like us to cover, send them to the Great Pause at beyondpix.com. It's right there on your screen, the Great Pause at beyondpix.com. And David, can I just say, it has been such an honor and pleasure to do this with you.
It has been a pleasure. Someone I only knew through the pages of USA Today, so thank you for that. And before we go, let's give a shout out to the great team at Beyond Pix, Anita and Kelly and Cynthia and Stuart. I've always believed, work with people smarter than you. They make you look good, and they've made us both look great today. So remember, tune in next week, and if you have funny jokes, family friendly, or memes, send them in to us. And as I always say since the last month, keep on keeping on. We will get through this. We are getting through this. Goodbye.